They are believed to be transmitted in the same way as HBV, by direct or indirect blood-to-blood contact. AIDS is caused by the human immunodeficiency virus, or HIV. HIV attacks white blood cells and destroys the body's ability to fight infection. HIV is known to be transmitted through direct or indirect exposure to infected blood, semen, vaginal secretion, and sometimes even breast milk. The fortunate feature of all of these diseases is that they are all preventable. Preventing disease transmission requires that you modify your behavior and follow some basic practices. These include using protective equipment and practicing good personal hygiene. It also includes those practices your employer may require you to follow. Appropriate protective equipment should be used whenever exposure to blood or other body fluids is likely. This equipment includes disposable gloves, gowns, eyewear, masks, shields, and resuscitation devices. All are designed to prevent you from making contact with infectious matter, which can greatly decrease your risk of contracting or transmitting a disease. But it is not enough to have these devices available. You must know how to use them. Plastic or latex gloves should always be worn when there is a possibility you could contact blood or other body fluids directly or indirectly. When removing gloves, hook the glove at the wrist and peel it off. This turns the glove inside out. Be careful to never touch the glove's soiled surface with your bare hands. Never reuse gloves or use gloves that are defective or torn. Always change gloves between contact with different people. Never handle personal items such as pens or combs when wearing soiled gloves. And always wash your hands after removing gloves. Resuscitation aids include a variety of resuscitation masks and airway devices. These devices are placed between you and the victim's mouth and nose to prevent you from making direct contact with body fluids.
Pulse is 50 and weak.
You should know how to use any devices made available to you. Always change masks between contact with different people. Your personal hygiene is as important in preventing infection as any equipment you might use. Frequently washing your hands can greatly decrease your risk of contracting or transmitting an infectious disease. When washing your hands, wash thoroughly with soap and water. Use a utility or restroom sink, never one in a food preparation area. Avoid eating, drinking, smoking, applying cosmetics or lip balm, handling contact lenses, or touching your mouth, nose, or eyes with soiled hands. If soap and water are not available, use a commercial antibacterial product. Immunizations are an important part of maintaining your personal health. It is advisable to get immunized for any childhood diseases you've not had. There are also vaccines that have been proven highly effective in preventing hepatitis B. Combined with an annual influenza vaccination and a 10-year tetanus booster, these immunizations will safeguard your good health both on and off the job. OSHA requires employers to make hepatitis B vaccines available, free of charge, to all employees who have the potential for on-the-job exposure. Furthermore, should an exposure occur, employers are required to provide post-exposure evaluation and follow-up. Now that you know what you can do to protect yourself, let's talk about things your employer can do. Your employer is responsible for implementing engineering and work practice controls as part of the Exposure Control Plan. Engineering controls are physical devices that isolate or remove a hazard from the workplace. Examples include puncture-resistant sharps containers and special biohazard bags for soiled linen disposal. Work practice controls alter behavior. For instance, in certain situations, your employer may require you to wear protective equipment such as gloves. Wearing gloves minimizes the exposure to blood and other potentially infectious fluids. Changing the way sharp objects such as needles are handled can prevent needle sticks. Together, engineering and work practice controls greatly reduce your exposure to infectious hazards. Proper handling, cleaning, and disinfecting of soiled equipment, supplies, and other materials is important in preventing disease transmission. It combines both work practice and engineering controls. Because handling contaminated materials can cause you to indirectly contact body fluids, you should always wear gloves when cleaning and disinfecting. Contaminated equipment must first be cleaned of any visible soil with soap and water before being disinfected. To disinfect, wash thoroughly with either a solution of 70 to 90% isopropyl alcohol or common household chlorine bleach and water. Surfaces such as floors, woodwork, countertops, and ambulance and automobile seats must also be cleaned before they are disinfected. Disposable waste, contaminated laundry, or soiled clothing should always be placed in specially marked containers or bags and properly disposed of or cleaned. Shoes, boots, and other leather goods, such as belts, should be scrubbed with soap, a brush, and hot water. Sometimes an incident may result in a spill of blood or body fluids. Your first step in dealing with a spill is containment. Commercially available containment units designed for hazardous materials are very effective. But if one is not available, any absorbent materials such as paper towels can be used if they are disposed of properly. To manage a spill, follow these steps. Clean up spills immediately or as soon as possible. Always wear gloves and other protective equipment. If the spill is mixed with sharp objects such as broken glass or needles, do not pick these up with your hands. Use tongs, a broom and dustpan, or a scoop. Use paper towels to absorb the spill, and dispose of the towels in a labeled biohazard container. Flood the area with an approved disinfectant solution and allow it to stand for at least 20 minutes. Use paper towels to absorb the solution and discard towels in the biohazard container. Your employer may have a specific plan in place to deal with a spill in your facility. If you think you've been exposed to an infectious disease, notify your employer immediately. Most have a method for reporting an exposure. This training is only a small part of an overall exposure control plan. This plan is an important step in eliminating or minimizing employee exposure to blood and other infectious materials. Minor changes can make a major difference in minimizing occupational hazards that may jeopardize your health. By using protective equipment, practicing good personal hygiene, and following work practice controls at your job site, you will take a big step towards safeguarding yourself and others against disease transmission.